was really good to have that. Going on and getting further education is up to you. It's a tough one, because then you'd be, trying to get a job versus trying to study at the same time. And, if you went and got a job, do you quit studying and all this other type of stuff? So it's a really, really hard thing to balance out and judge. So the minimum requirements, I would say get a Cert 4 in either peer working, mental health, community services, something along those lines. Most job advertisements will give you some will even accept Cert 4 in disability. They all give you the base understanding of, documentation and all that type of stuff, and how you treat people and confidentiality and all that type of stuff. So, I would go down the education route before I went and started applying for any peer worker role. I don't think I know of many people who walk straight into a peer worker role without any sort of formal education backing them up. So this follows on to looking for that role. Now, like I said to you before, every organization generally has a different name title for the peer worker role, which is really frustrating, because you'll go peer worker, peer support worker, and then it'll come up with maybe 2 or 3 roles, but not in your area. So that sort of bums that out. Then you type in peer practitioner, and then a couple more come up. And it's that type of thing that it's really annoying. There's another way, and it extends across all the job-seeking websites, whether it be Ethical Jobs, Jora, Seek, all those. They're all similar in how they have different descriptions or different job titles for the jobs that they're advertising. And that makes it really difficult. And I guess that's the same across the board on most jobs. But a peer worker, you pretty much would expect a peer support worker as the job title, but for some reason, peer practitioner and all these other different ones tend to pop up every now and again, which to me is weird. Sort of limits their pool of applicants, because people aren't looking for peer practitioner, base level, blah 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 blah. They're looking for a peer support worker, so peer support worker role. So when that happens, you really need to expand your searches within these job agency websites. Now, that's not the only place that you'll find jobs. Most, if not all, organizations who have peer workers will have a website, whether it be a hospital, an NGO, or a small organization. They all have websites, and they all have employment careers, they call them careers, sections. So within those career sections, you can go in and have a look, even bookmark the career section, and then every week just check it to see if there's a peer worker role popping up. I got my initial peer worker role through actually I got it emailed to me by a friend, but it was on careers.com.au and Seek, and it was everywhere. So I hummed and hawed whether or not I would take it, no, or apply, but I did apply for it and I did get it, which was good. It was my first attempt at getting a job after all the stuff I'd been through, all my mental health problems, and I nailed it. So I'll give you some tips later on what you do in the interview and all that type of stuff. So, yeah, when you're looking for the role, it's not unheard of even ringing the HR department and finding out if there's any peer working roles going on. You don't just not look for something if you want it that bad. What I don't suggest is that you apply for a job that's an hour and a half away just because it's the only job that's there, because you're going to get very tired of the hour and a half travel every day to go to work, and then it becomes costly. So you're on a limited wage most of the time anyway when you're on a peer worker. Sorry, I got something in my eye. When you're a peer worker, so you really need to make sure that you're not overstretching yourself, because as a peer worker, you do have limitations, and you don't want to blow those limitations and get a bad rap because you overextended yourself. So there's also another way into peer working, and this is probably the least traveled way into peer working, and it's via volunteering. Volunteering is a really good way to get into peer worker role. The employer basically gets to try you out before they buy, basically. But in saying that, sometimes volunteering makes it even harder to get the job, because you are volunteering your time, and why would they employ you under a wage when they can basically have you for free? So you need to put in your limitations on what you're willing to do when you're volunteering. Give them a taste of what you can do, and then be very wary of what's happening out there in regards to jobs and stuff like that. Don't sort of tie yourself down to the one job, to the one volunteer working job. It always looks good on a resume that you did volunteer. It's always a valuable sort of asset to have on your resume that you volunteered at this organization for this long, doing this. So there's pros and cons of volunteering. I say do it if you've got the time. It's always a time restraint thing with me. I never seem to have enough time for anything. But if you're really, really wanting to get that experience, then volunteering is generally the way to go, and it's generally the way a lot of people go. And you pick up some really valuable information when you're volunteering as well, and you know what you're getting yourself in for when you actually do start working, because it changes. The dynamic of the relationship between you and the organization changes. So you need to make sure that you're happy